I didn't think it was a big deal. Honestly, I thought it was harmless. Just a joke. The kind couples make when they've been together long enough to tease each other without meaning any damage. At least, that's what I told myself. My name is Lena, and my husband's name is Caleb. Even now, saying his name makes my chest tighten a little. It happened at my sister's birthday dinner. Nothing fancy. Just a long table at a busy restaurant, candles flickering, wine glasses clinking, everyone talking over each other. Family, friends, co-workers. The usual mix of people who half know your life and think they understand your marriage based on what you show them. Caleb was sitting beside me, quiet as usual. He's never been the loud one in a room. He listens more than he talks. I used to find that grounding. Lately, I'd started seeing it as dull, or maybe I was just restless. Someone asked how long we'd been married. 8 years, I said, and still happy, my cousin joked. Without thinking, I laughed and said, well, Caleb's great at fixing things, paying bills, and staying out of trouble. Romance isn't exactly his strong suit. A few people chuckled. Someone raised their glass. Caleb smiled. A small one. Tight. That should have been my cue to stop. Instead, I added, if I waited for him to surprise me, I'd be waiting until retirement. More laughter. Louder this time. If you're already feeling uncomfortable reading this, good. Because that's exactly when I should have felt uncomfortable too. If you've ever witnessed a moment like this, where a joke crossed an invisible line, pause for a second and tap like so this story can reach people who need to hear it. Caleb didn't interrupt me. He didn't roll his eyes. He didn't snap back with a joke of his own. He just reached for his water, took a slow sip, and then looked straight ahead, like he'd suddenly found something fascinating on the wall. The conversation moved on. Dessert menus came out. Everyone relaxed. Everyone except me. Because there was something in the air now. Something heavy. The kind you can't see but you can feel pressing against your ribs. Later, as plates were cleared and people leaned back in their chairs, someone said, Caleb, you're awfully quiet tonight. What do you think? He didn't answer right away. He set his glass down carefully. Not angrily. Carefully. Then he looked at me. Not with anger. Not even hurt. With something worse. Clarity. Honestly, he said calmly, I think it's interesting how you're comfortable laughing at me in public, but confused why I don't open up to you in private. The table went silent. No nervous laughter. No clinking glasses. Even the server froze for a second. I felt my face burn. I opened my mouth to say something, anything, but no words came out. Caleb wasn't done. I don't mind being quiet, he continued, his voice steady, but I do mind being reduced to a punchline. That was it. He didn't raise his voice, didn't list my flaws, didn't embarrass me the way I just embarrassed him. And somehow, that made it worse. If you were sitting at that table, whose side would you have been on, mine or his? Drop your honest thoughts in the comments. The rest of the night blurred together. People made excuses to leave. Someone hugged me awkwardly. Someone else avoided eye contact. Caleb paid a bill without a word and walked out ahead of me. The drive home was quiet. Not the comfortable quiet we used to share, but the kind that buzzes in your ears. I replayed the moment over and over in my head. The joke, the laughter, his face, his words. At a red light, I finally said, I was just joking. Caleb didn't look at me. I know, he said. That's a problem. That sentence stayed with me longer than I expected. At home, he didn't storm off. He didn't slam doors. He took off his jacket, placed his keys in the tray, and said, I'm going to take a shower. I stood in the kitchen alone, staring at the counter, suddenly aware of how often I'd made comments like that. Little digs disguised as humor, eye rolls, sarcasm in front of others, all the ways I'd slowly trained myself to see him as less. If this moment made you think of a single word, respect, silence, regret, or pride, type that word in the comments. I'm curious which one this story brings up for you. When he came out of the bedroom later, towel around his neck, he stopped. Lena, he said quietly, do you even like me anymore? That question landed harder than anything he'd said at dinner. And for the first time that night, I didn't know the answer. If you feel this story might resonate with someone navigating marriage, pride, or unspoken resentment, consider sharing it. Sometimes a story explains what emotions can't. I went to bed staring at the ceiling, realizing something I hadn't wanted to admit. I hadn't just made a joke. I'd revealed exactly how safe he wasn't with me anymore. I didn't sleep that night. Not really. I kept replaying his question over and over. Do you even like me anymore? It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't accusatory. It sounded tired, like a man asking because he genuinely didn't know anymore. Morning came quietly. Caleb was already up. I could hear him moving around the kitchen, the familiar sound of cabinets opening, the coffee machine humming. Normal sounds. Except nothing felt normal. When I walked in, he slid a mug toward me out of habit. No smile. No tension either. Just neutral. Thank you, I said, my voice softer than usual. He nodded and went back to scrolling on his phone. That was new. Caleb was never on his phone in the mornings. He used to sit across from me, ask about my plans, tell me something random he'd read or thought about. Now there was a polite distance between us, like co-workers sharing a break room. I wanted to fix it immediately, say the right thing, undo the damage with one perfect sentence. I didn't mean to hurt you, I started. He looked up. I know. That should have comforted me. Instead, it scared me. I just thought. I trailed off. You thought it was funny, he finished calmly. And maybe it was. For everyone else. I sat down across from him. I wasn't trying to make you look small. He met my eyes. But you did. There it was. Simple. Honest. Undeniable. He went on, still measured. That wasn't the first time, Lena. It's just the first time I said something. I swallowed hard. He talked about the comments I'd made over the years. Not angrily. Factually. How I joked about him being boring. Predictable. Too serious. How people laughed. And how he laughed along because it felt easier than explaining why it hurt. I stopped sharing things with you, he said, because every time I did, it eventually became a joke. Something you repeated later for laughs. That stung, because it was true. At this point in the story, do you think this marriage can still be repaired, or is something already broken too deeply share your perspective in the comments? Let's actually talk about it. I realized then that the silence I complained about wasn't his personality. It was his defense. I'm sorry, I said again, this time slower. Not just for last night, for all of it. He studied me, like he was deciding whether my apology was a reflex or a realization. I'm not asking you to walk on eggshells, he said. I'm asking you to stop using me as a shield. You get laughs. I absorb the cost. That sentence hurt because I recognized myself in it. We didn't magically fix anything that morning. There was no dramatic hug. No promise that everything would be better. He went to work. I stayed home longer than usual, sitting with the discomfort instead of brushing it away. Over the next few days, I noticed changes. Subtle ones. Caleb stopped volunteering stories about his day. He answered questions politely, briefly. He wasn't cold, just guarded. And I understood why. I'd confused familiarity with permission. I thought love meant freedom to say anything. I forgot that respect is what keeps love alive. One evening, I finally said it out loud. I think I forgot that being your wife doesn't mean I get to be careless with you. He looked at me then, really looked at me, and for the first time since the dinner, his shoulders relaxed just a little. That, he said, is the first thing that's made me feel hopeful. If this story made you reflect on how word can quietly damage or heal a relationship, consider sharing it. Not to shame anyone, but to start better conversations. We're still working through it. I won't pretend otherwise. Trust doesn't reset instantly. Safety takes time to rebuild. But now, when we're around others, I watch my words. Not because I'm scared, but because I finally understand their weight. I learned something important from that night. Humiliation doesn't need shouting. Sometimes it comes wrapped in laughter. And silence isn't always weakness. Sometimes it's a sound of someone protecting what's left of themselves. Before you go, if this story resonated with you, like the video, leave a comment answering this.